Hi, and welcome everyone to today's session on the WHT scholarship, which is the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Trust scholarships. Very quickly, I will introduce you to Project EduAccess and the panelists who joined us today. Sorry. Will then take you over the scholarship. They'll tell you about the eligibility, the list of eligible courses, what the timeline looks like, what is the application process, selection criteria. They'll talk to you about the essays that you have to submit along with your application, and then give you some general tips, and then we move to the Q&A. So we are Project EduAccess. We believe that access to higher education, leadership, and professional opportunities is a privilege that most people from marginalized communities are systematically denied through cost, information, and dispositional barriers. And we try to improve inclusivity in some of these spaces by removing some barriers for marginalized communities in the global south. And we do this by adopting 4 key interventions such as mentoring, counseling, role modeling, information, advice, guidance, capacity building, leadership skill development, and evidence-based advocacy. Um, to help us in our goals, we have with us 3 really wonderful panelists. We have with us Teres, who's doing an MSc in evidence-based social intervention and policy evaluation, and is a WHT scholar for 2024. We have with us Faizan, who did the BCL, which is the Bachelor of Civil Law and the LLM equivalent at Oxford, and is a WHT scholar from 2023. And we have with us Taha, who did the MSc in Economics for Development and is a WHT scholar from 2023. Just to note that all 3 of them are doing their masters at University of Oxford, because the WHT scholarship is only for University of Oxford. And I'm sure our panelists will talk you through more about the scholarship. So thank you to the 3 of you for joining us today. And I will hand it over to Faizan.
Thank you, Misbah. So, as Misbah already told you, the scholarship covers funding for studies at the University of Oxford for 1 year. Now, what this includes is a full package of both the payment towards your tuition fees, living costs, and the leadership program. Now, we'll just get into the leadership program in a bit, but it covers the leadership program, which includes various soft skills, teaching about the entrepreneurship challenge, the WHT union debate, other soft skills like public speaking, confidence, and networking throughout the WHT network. The second is that this is primarily for professionals and students and applicants from emerging and developing countries. So that means the countries that you are in South Asia are eligible. Second is that they're only for taught masters programs and not available for research programs. The full list of eligible programs will be available to you on the Oxford University website, which you can see from the portal. Um, and now I'll just come to eligibility for the scholarship. Uh, you need to keep in mind 2 things. One is your course eligibility. That means whether your course itself is eligible. And the second is whether your country is eligible. And you can get that list from the application website itself. Uh, there is no age limit for the scholarship. So this is a very diverse cohort. You can have fresh graduates as well as people who have been working from years, people with families, dependents, and so on. Then it's very important that while applying and in being eligible for the scholarship, you're able to show a connection between your subject of study and your long-term career objectives. That is to say what you will be doing after the WHT, because it's just a 1 year program. So how it contributes to the improvement of public life in your country of origin, because the scholarship requires you to return to your country after you complete your studies. So how the process works, I'll come to that as well, because it's done through various stages, which starts from an application form, which is the WHT scholarship statement, the admission process that goes in parallel and is integrated within the Oxford University portal. And once you clear this and once you get admission is when the interview process starts. I'll also come to how the process works in a bit. Yes, next slide. So these are the eligible courses. I mean, this is just a list that was there, but I urge you all to confirm the list for this year because every year new courses get added or subtracted. So make sure you visit the website to see the full list of eligible courses and whether your course is eligible or not. Next slide is the timeline. So the WHT scholarship program have now opened their applications. Now note that this process is integrated within the Oxford University admission process. That means that you don't have to go to a separate portal, but while you make your account on the Oxford University admissions portal, that is when you'll also add the WHT scholarship statement. Now, if you go to the website, you will be able to find a Word doc, which is the WHT scholarship statement. And that is a form of questions and a form that you need to fill. And then when you save that form as a PDF, you will upload that in the admission portal when you're making your course application. So now your course application can either be by the December deadline or the January deadline, whichever is relevant to your course. Then, so make sure you check your course webpage for the application deadlines because your WHT form needs to be submitted along with your course application. So if your course application is in December, your deadline will be December. If it's in January, then it will be January as well. So make sure you check this on the website. So how this happens is once you submit your course application along with the WHC scholarship statement form, uh, around March is when the university or the department concerned with your course will send you offer letters and will confirm or give you a conditional offer. That means confirming alongside your minimum eligibility criteria, as long as you qualify and all, and they receive all your documents and so on, you'll get your confirmation of a place of seat and in the next few weeks you'll then have your college confirmation and so on. Then by April you'll be shortlisted. Those candidates which have qualified for admission will be then filtered, and then WST will reach out to candidates that fulfill its criteria through the scholarship statement form, and then will be contacted for the interviews, which will be virtual. So this happens usually in April, and then by end of April or May 1st or second week, the successful applicants are informed. Yeah, as I said, the application process goes in parallel. So there's a graduate application form, which means your course application form. When you make your account in the university portal, you will see the option to submit alongside it the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholarship statement. So you submit it alongside it, and then the WHT scholarship statement can be downloaded from the link itself on the Oxford website, which you'll find that on the right side of the web page. And then Taha will take you with through the selection criteria and so.
Thank you, Faizan. So basically, I'll be talking about the selection criteria, which are the essential things that your application should contain to strengthen it. Okay. The first thing is your motivation and purpose. You should be able to credibly signal why the WST scholarship, along with the program, is the perfect missing piece within your academic journey. So you should be able to connect your academic and professional background along with your future plans and your career goals and how the WHT scholarship fits well into that. Okay. And that could be communicated by explaining the relevance, the skills you have learned, your motivation, your goals, all of that. Okay. The next thing is you should be able to demonstrate excellence in your academic work experience and extracurriculars. But it should be noted that you should not just list down all of your achievements. You should basically connect them to how to the program, to the scholarship, and to your long-term goals. Simply listing them down won't strengthen your application as much as if you connect and show why these achievements are particularly relevant. Okay. The last thing is that you should provide, the last thing within motivation is that you should provide evidence and show commitment, which is again, you should have uh whatever field you are in, if you show a philanthropic and social dimension to it and connect it to WHT's values, that would significantly help your application. That's the motivation part. The next thing is your leadership potential. And this is because, as Faizan mentioned, the WHT program has a leadership program also, which runs alongside your studies and the scholarship. And your leadership skills need to be demonstrated. And one thing which you have to note is that you do not have to be in a position of authority to exhibit leadership skills. Whatever position you were in, you could show important leadership skills within communication, taking initiative, entrepreneurial abilities, and so on. For example, this our current scholar, the scholar last year, Rohan, he took a lot of initiative in protests for Gaza and everything, although he wasn't in a position of authority, but within the sphere of influence he had, he took that. So that's the sort of leadership potential you need to demonstrate. And yeah, we also have the business challenge as part of our leadership program. So if you have any experience with businesses, startups, and so on, be sure to mention that. The last thing is academic excellence. And once again, your grades, your transcripts would already reflect that. But in the application, you need to make sure to connect your academic achievements to the bigger picture, to the WHT program, your career goals, and everything. Simply listing them down won't help as much. Okay. Can you change the slide, please? Thank you, Misbah. So here's a snapshot of what the WHT scholarship application form looks like. And it's a very self-explanatory form. You have these basic eligibility questions, work experience questions, education questions, and so on. And then later you have to answer 3 or 4 kind of small essay-based questions, which signal your motivation for the WHT program itself. And we shall, in the next few slides, we shall help you get through a few of these questions. So can you change the slide, please? Thank you, Misbah. So here are the scholarship statement questions. And you should note that on one side, you have the Oxford application for your program. And this is the additional supplement which you need to submit when you're submitting your application for the program. And these are the main questions which you need to answer, which are scholarship specific. Okay. I shall address the first one, and the rest of the questions will be addressed by my colleagues. Can you please change the slide now? Thank you. Okay, so the first question within the application form is, why do you want to participate in the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Trust leadership program? Now, the WHT is an excellent scholarship in terms of its funding. It gives you everything you need, except for maybe flight tickets, but everything else you need. But that's not the only thing which the scholarship offers. And that's what you need to emphasize on, that the financial aspect of it, sure, well and good, but it's the leadership program which is the deal breaker, which is what draws you towards the scholarship so much. So I would suggest that if you don't know about the leadership program, do go into the research, do look at the websites and see what the moral philosophy seminars, the business challenges, and the annual debate, and all of these activities are within the leadership program. And mentioning that and making that a motivation to apply would be a huge strengthening point in your application. Okay. So I would suggest that do some research, reach out to alumni, and see what else the program offers apart from the finances. Okay. Next thing is, yeah, you could also go to the WHT Instagram page where there's a huge coverage of what our moral philosophy seminars, business challenges look like. I think there's the WHT Instagram tag here, so do look at that. And yeah, so if you can credibly show them that you're not here just for the money, but it's also the activities, the alumni network, and how you have the tendencies to not only participate but thrive in those activities, that would make a strong application. Okay. And lastly, as always, you should connect the leadership program to everything you've done in the past and your vision for the future. And yeah, that's it from my side. I'm gonna hand it over to Teres.
Hi, thank you, Taha. Just wanted to note something in the beginning, especially if you're reapplying, please note that the questions for this year have changed. And I think the first question was a question that was there last year as well, but the next couple of questions have changed. So please note that if you're applying again. So yes, going into the second question, this is a new question that has come up this year. In your experience, which is more important, quality for a leader, vision or empathy? So again, drawing on what Taha said, it needn't be anything big. It needn't be something that if you have led something that works, but if you've also noticed these aspects in a leader that you've worked under, that also works. And also, whenever you write your essay, everybody is focused on that up until now as well, that you always show and not tell. Don't tell them that you can do this, you can do that, but show them with your examples how you did that. And so for that, again, emphasizing, do not say any philosophical statements on what a good visionary leader is supposed to be like, or what an empathetic leader should look like, but try and draw on your experiences. And I think leadership aspect has been emphasized a lot up until now. So here again, what you try and do is try and tell what a leadership vision for yourself is. This could be this is possibly very likely related to what you want to do with your life, and which direction you want to go towards. So try and bring in the answer to that as well within this question. And again, as usual, tie all of that make that connection of that leadership potential to the course that you want to do, and use it to show that this will be this program and the WHT scholarship and this program that you're choosing to do will be a bridge from what you were and then what you want to be. Yeah. Next slide. Thank you, Ms. Ba. Again, one of the new questions this year is diversity is one of WHT's core values. What does this mean to you and why is it important? Here again, use examples either from your personal or professional life where you have at least slightly attempted to reconcile a lot of conflicting opinions. Something that if you reflect deep enough that all of us have done in our lives at some point or the other. And it's also very interesting to possibly bring in what diversity essentially means within your chosen field. So if you've chosen something within the health field or the legal field, or in my case, the public policy field, the challenges of diversity in all of these fields are likely to be different. So try and emphasize on what the questions of diversity are within your field. Again, if you're in college, if you're directly after undergrad, you would have possibly had to try and navigate spaces to ensure that it's more diverse and to make it more inclusive, either in your workspace or in college and other activities. Try and emphasize on what you have done. And yeah, highlight, yes. And after having established your connection with the diversity aspect, then go on to maybe specifically state what you expect to gain out of the WHT's diverse community. So highlight what you expect. Yeah, and then finally show what impact diversity make, instead of answering once again tying back to don't say anything abstract of what diversity is. Don't quote anybody else, essentially. Try and say what it means to you. And Mispa, I think we can go to the next one. Yeah, the fourth question is, what is your proudest achievement to date as a leader and why? Here again, it could be an incident from your work, a volunteer, or an academic experience. Remember that no feat is too small. Whatever small thing that, like Taha mentioned, whatever that you've felt that some action of yours created some change, make it a point to mention that clearly. And yeah, again, it's very important to distinguish what you did apart from the larger group that you were working in, because they are trying to look at who you are as a person with these couple of 500, 600 words that you're giving them. So try and show them what you did instead of saying, okay, yeah, you'll possibly have to use the I language other than the we language. And yeah, pay attention to the question asking your achievement as a leader. So pick a story or an experience which highlights your leadership qualities as opposed to only an individual achievement. This is something that we've spoken about. And yeah, the second aspect to this question is why do you think that particular experience that you're talking about is particularly important to you? And this essentially means that there are a lot of different aspects of achievement or changes that we've been able to do, but if you're choosing to speak about it, why is this one very important to you? And the answer to this question is also possibly tying into why you want to study this program, and what you intend to do after this program. So tying all of that together at the end of it, while you answer why you chose that experience to demonstrate your leadership, will also be a good thing to do. Misbah, we can go to the next one. Yes, and this again is a question I think if you're planning to apply, you would have answered in different manners in firm everywhere. It's outline how you anticipate your career progressing for the next 5 years after completing your studies in Oxford. Yes, so here it might be yeah, so it's very important to strike a balance between it being a very rigid idea of, okay, I will do this exactly, but also don't make it very unclear where you don't have any direction. So it's usually beneficial to mention maybe where you're hoping to work for, which kind of organizations that you're looking to work for, or if you want to start something out, what would that be like? So to be slightly more specific, but yeah, it's completely all right to not exactly know what you want to do, but use that kind of language where you don't show that you're too uncertain. And yeah, that question was removed, so I don't think that second point applies anymore. Yes, and moving on to the next point, we're again talking about how you can talk about your aspirations and goals, and it needn't be very concrete. You needn't be sure that you can do it for sure. I think one of the best advice that I got regarding this is that try and imagine that you had all the money and all the time in the world. If you had all of that, what would you then do? So yeah, so in that endeavor, you can be as grand as possible. You can talk about actually wanting to do something that at this moment you might not think that you can actually do. And yeah, and also because they have asked the next 5 years, try and break it down into what immediately you want to do after your under graduation here, and then a short-term goal, and then move on to a longer-term goal. Yeah, and of course, everything usually ties up into what is your intention after the program. Why does this program particularly help you achieve what you want to do after this? Yes. Yeah, and finally, general tips. Start early. They say you have to have a very bad first draft if you want to be able to rewrite it. So whenever I think that is the essential step. You have to get a really bad first draft out. So do that as early as you can. But yeah, and the second point would be once that final outcome you've drafted that a lot of times, you will finally come at a proper final document, which you essentially should be proofreading multiple times. Make sure you don't make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes people make small because a lot of times you copy paste from other scholarships. Avoid small errors where you mention the name of another scholarship within this program. And usually also maybe follow the general tips of writing, where you do not use very big long sentences, but it's generally preferable to use short sentences. Don't use big words that you barely use in your common language, but use language that is something that you use generally in your day-to-day life. And rather than just making simple, yes, always, once again, very important aspect of writing an SOP for masters is that you show and you don't tell people or list down points. They again, here one of the really good advices that I got was that those people who are going to sit around a table or what, looking at your essay, have not seen you, have not met you in person. It's these whatever 1,000 words that you give them that they're going to use to try and analyze if you are a suitable candidate. So if people are sitting around and looking at if your essay is going to be good, give them enough content to say that because of these reasons, we think she's a better candidate. So try and include as much content for that for them, make it easier for them. And yeah, again, a small mistake that you could do is that you're supposed to submit the document in PDF, but you download it in Word document. So make sure that you don't submit it back as a Word document, but as a PDF document. Yes.
Before,
Thank
oh, sorry. Before we move the questions, Taha, Faizan, do you want to come in and just give any general tips, or should we just move to Q?
Yeah, I'd like to mention one thing. So there's always this question about, okay, how specific do we have to be within our future plans? And if we show too much uncertainty versus if we show too much commitment towards a really specialized narrow field, both of these extremes could backfire because we are in our stage of figuring out uh, our career goals and everything. And Oxford might play a big role, not only in like helping us achieve those, but in the figuring out process also. So what I'm trying to say is that we should have a balance between having a clear goal about like what we're gonna do, but we should not over restrict or over commit ourselves towards a really narrowly specialized place which we want to be in 5 years, because that neglects the fact that we're gonna go to Oxford, we're gonna learn so much about the world, about ourselves, and then shape our goals accordingly. So that's one thing which you should definitely keep in mind while writing the statements.
Okay, Faizan, did you want to say?
Yeah, I think that's very helpful, Taha. And the other thing is also, uh, be it any of the questions, like especially the fifth one, you want to always go and link it back to, like, the WHT, the things that you would learn in the program that will facilitate your contributions back home. That what is it that will equip you um, in your future goals. So you want to also integrate a part of the, say, the business challenge and the other activities that you've done, saying that after being equipped with these skills, I think it will be useful for the field that I'll be doing and the career that I'll be pursuing. So tie it back to the first question, tie it back to the, and this is something that as a general tip, keep in mind for all five questions, that you want to show some connection, because you will see even how the questions are structured is to show that. One more thing that I think is important is, in one of the questions, try to insert your story, so that it's not only about just answering the question, that if I read the first two, three answers, I should also know who you are and where you are coming from. So don't jump right into answering the question. You might want to give some background, a story of where you are coming from and how you arrived at what is that cause that you want to take up, or what is the leadership potential that you're showing, and so on. So I should know some part of you, because none of the questions is directly asking who you are, why you want to do this, and so on. So just try to look for that opportunity to insert your story in one of these questions that at least give a glimpse of who you are.
Okay, thank you so much, Faizan, Teres, and Taha. It's very comprehensive and helpful. So we now move to the Q&A part of the session. If you have any questions, you can put them in chat, or you can raise your hand and ask your question directly to the panelists. I see that there's already a few questions in chat, so maybe I can start with those, and then in the meantime, if there are more questions, you can just raise your hand and ask them directly. So, okay. So someone's asking, is it important to write different examples and points in the scholarship questions than the ones mentioned in the statement of academic purpose of the course? Or can we repurpose our statements, especially in the proudest achievements as a leader question? Anyone who wants to take it?
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah, and maybe the others can add on that. My understanding is that your statement of purpose for your course goes to the department, and once the department shortlists who are the candidates eligible for WHT, then there is a scholarship team that reviews your WHT scholarship essays. I wouldn't be worried about repurposing the stories. But yeah, you're possibly not going to exactly copy paste contextualize the answers to the new question, but you feel free to, because these are exactly, all of these questions are essentially tying into what do you want to do after the program, where are you coming from, why this exact program. So I think it's inevitable to have to repurpose a couple of these stories.
Great. I'll take the other question, which is the first question is about the relates to leadership. Does it have to be related to initiatives, or can it be about simple team issues which you were able to resolve or maintain camaraderie among teams from different age groups? Then there's another question about the first question in the WHT form. Since the question is asking only for the leadership program, is it really important to mention about scholarship, as in, isn't that already implied? Um, Maybe we, and then, okay, I'll just read them out and you can answer them in the order that works for you. In the section regarding the section that asks for work experience in the form, do we need to summarize what we did, or can we be more specific and detailed? And then in the last question, can I just mention I want to work with an international organization, or do I have to be specific with the name as well? So 4 questions. So whoever wants to take whichever one, they're also in chat if you want to read them again.
I could take the first two. Okay, so questions related to leadership, I mean, that's a broad concept about leadership, and resolving or maintaining camaraderie among team of different age groups. That could also be phrased as kind of taking initiative to do that resolution. And I do believe that while leadership is a broad term, a broad like concept, taking initiative is one of the vital elements it has. And that includes like entrepreneurship, or like having difficult conversations, or challenging the status quo, and so on. And even resolving or maintaining this thing, that also has an element of leadership. So if you phrase it in that way, then yeah, it definitely counts as leadership, and then you could show how important that is for the application. The next thing is that since the question is already asking for the leadership program, is it really important to mention about scholarship? Uh, scholarship as in the financial aspect of it, uh, I think the financial aspect of it, you could write how it's made it accessible for someone of your background to come to Oxford, and how important would that chapter of your life be in terms of your future goals. In terms of that, yes. But again, don't focus too much on the financial aspect, because that's every scholarship ever. So I would focus on those things which makes WHT unique, and the holistic and the learning experience it provides through the leadership program. If anyone else wants to take the next few questions, feel free to do so.
Yeah, Teres.
Yeah, I can take the next one. So regarding that work experience, I had bullet points listed. I think they're not particularly gauging. They have your CV as well. Sorry, I don't think they have their CV, and I think that is why they're using this section. So I think bullet points should work. Sort of a very brief point by point. Jotting down those should work is my understanding. If Faizan and Taha have done it another way, please do mention it afterwards. And so on the last question, I want to work with an international organization, or if I have to be specific with the name as well. If you do have a name, I'd suggest that it'll be good, but if you don't, that doesn't matter as well. And all of these organizations, rather than just name dropping, it's really about what you want to do. So I don't know if just name dropping a big organization would give you special points in that sense. It's really about how it possibly ties into what you actually want to do. And there, if you don't have a particular name, but you just want to work with, if you're within your story, if you feel like just explaining that working in an international organization makes sense, that will work as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the last question that a lot of people about mentioning details. One is that you need to be very cautious of the 200 words limit. So try to keep it as like less detail oriented, but being specific. Specific in the sense that how it specifically answers the question and how your experience is tied to the skill that you want to highlight and your role and so on. So it's not really about name dropping at all. In fact, I caution against name dropping because I mean, of course, if it depends on your field and what you want to show, is that especially for people who are working in the South Asian context and so on, many of the places that you would be working in may be really renowned and reputed in your own country in people who have local context. But the people who are going to be reading your application are likely to have are likely going to be people who do not know what this organization or what this place that you interned at or where you worked and what is it known for. So rather than saying that I worked at X place, uh, and assuming that they might know, oh, this is a place known for XYZ work. Rather, you'd want to directly say, I worked at an office that does XYZ work, or I did this in this office, a firm that is working in, say, work and so on, and that's why I worked on immigration, refugee law, etc. So you want to highlight what is the work that you you did rather than like the organization and so on, or you may want to highlight something associated with that workspace in a manner that is accessible to people who may not have the local context.
Okay, I'll take the raised hand now. Debangi, do you want to ask your question?
Okay, hi. So thank you for today's session. I just want to ask a question to Faizan, maybe because he's someone who has completed his tenure as a WFT scholar. So, for the leadership program, how do you feel that your the WFT program has aligned with your interest, and how it helped you develop your own career trajectory? Maybe how the leadership program of the scholarship helped you in any way, like your experience of these programs.
So how I feel about it is a different question from how you should put that in your application. So I'll leave the feelings part to myself, but I'll tell you how you can answer that question in your application. Is that the skills that you learn there will definitely help you in whatever field or career that you do. One, most importantly, is the network that you get. a lot of WHT scholars come from South Asia, come, and a large number of them every year are from India, which means whenever you come back, you are going to have a ready list of people who you can always reach out to. And in fact, this is something you can even highlight, that amongst the diversity of countries that are represented, India is really like very well represented, and that has a big network within. Like there's a big WHT India alum network itself, which is also something unique and will specifically help you as compared to other scholarships and so on. Then, apart from the network, is of course the skills that you learn in communication. We did a lot of communication skills, which is about, so for example, in my field, one of the various most important skill is, let's say, public speaking, communicating with people, and so on. That is something I learned through the WC debate, the academic retreat we had, where we engaged in very good questions. A lot of the philosophical questions that I deal with and try to implement academically are through the, say, moral philosophy program, that you learn to exchange views respectfully, learn to disagree with each other respectfully, and so on. And the third is also about, what we did was a media training program, which is about training us on how to speak to media. And this is something that I usually presume that I would know, but there are lots of skills which are not really taught elsewhere and can be useful to you in your program. And whichever, like, you can highlight that your role requires you these things, and or even if it doesn't require, you think that these skills will really help you in elevating your career, so that will distinguish you from a good so and so professional in this area to an outstanding one. So for example, I think the ability to be able to talk to media and give interviews is something can distinguish me from other lawyers who are giving interviews daily and speaking to the media. So, like, this is one or two things that I felt are were helpful, not free, but will help you, like, if you want to highlight that in your application.
Yeah. Is it cool if I add something to that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Faizan summed it up perfectly. Like the skills you learn in terms of communication, presentation, they're super useful, even though we might not realize it. And there's one important thing I need to mention at this point is that all of this runs alongside your degree programs, which means it's going to be intense. It's going to be difficult to schedule things. I've never used my calendar app in my life until Oxford. And that's because every minute of every hour, you have something to do. But having said that, the activities involved in the leadership program, they get you out of your comfort zone. Now the concept of networking with people, it's a weird concept. They put you inside a room full of strangers and you're just supposed to initiate small talk with them. You're supposed to say, oh, what do you do? Wow, and all. But it's actually so useful. The amount of help and support in my career I've got just from that, initiating conversations and networking. This is something which you don't know you need, but you actually do. So definitely mention the things which Faizan said about the media training. And there's a lot of potential improvements within ourselves, which we ourselves are not aware about. And the WST leadership program helps identify those and improve upon those. But one thing is definitely that it's going to be an intense program, so you need to credibly signal that you'll be able to manage it all along with your studies, which was actually one of my interview questions. So if you signal it in the form also, that's going to be super helpful.
I
Perfect.
also would like to add something. I think she actually focused, the question was focused on what did you gain after Oxford. But I just wanted to pop in and say there's a lot that I gained because of the community while I'm at Oxford also. Because this is one of the scholarships where you have a small cohort of 30 people. And when you enter the college space and you're looking to make friends and connect with people, um, WHT in the beginning puts you all together in a conference for 3 days where you're coming. From different places in the world, and in these moral philosophy seminars you're possibly discussing things that are very personal regarding your values, and this was a really good way to build a community within Oxford, and I think that is possibly going to add to the value of the year that I spent here as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers. Another small question I have regarding the application process to Oxford itself is that how do you feel that I should highlight my co-curricular activities, like on a side note or maybe just a paragraph about it? How?
Divangi, it might be helpful to mention which course you're applying for, and then maybe if someone is equipped to answer that, they'll be able to.
Oh, okay, sure. Like, I want to apply to the MSc in Criminology and Criminal Justice. So, should I actually highlight my co-curricular activities as a dancer, maybe? And the kind of skills it has equipped me and helped me in my leadership trajectory careers or anything like that? And or should I just put it on a side note and not emphasize on it as something important?
Okay, so like others can also contribute and add to this. But what I think is that, uh, of course, like your academic trajectory and all of that and your skills would already also be there in your Oxford application. It's also going to be there in your other questions that you are going to highlight. I think it's a good idea to also highlight that you are not just about your course and you are beyond that, but you would want to show like it contributing to, like, if you're answering a question about, say, leadership potential, it should fit in well in the answer. Don't just drop it for the sake of it, is the point. So if you're able to tie it well, I think it's a great idea to, like, a lot of people do actually do these things where they show that they're a very versatile personality, and that sometimes works in their favor. So that's totally on you. But the idea is that it should fit in well in one of those answers and not appear abruptly appearing or just like name dropping it for the sake of it.
Perfect. I'll take some questions from chat now. One question is, I am done with my bachelor's in English literature. This program isn't available. Can I apply for any other program and how to complete my application? Basically, how will I interconnect my previous study to the chosen programs? I guess just sort of rephrasing it more broadly, if you switch programs, how do you write about that in your application?
I'll try to answer that. It's a tough question, but I think it all boils down to how well you connect the background you have in terms of your future plans. So, for example, it's just an example, if you apply to like a master's in journalism or something, and you connected that my English literature background in some way, I don't know, helps with that, then it could be a good bridge. But if you're applying to a program that has any technical requirements, then you'll need to keep that into account. Like if you're going from English literature to economics, for example, then you might need to check what required coursework there is or GRE requirements there are. But yeah, I think the pragmatic steps you could take is that you could check the available programs, shortlist the ones which interest you, and then check their requirements. And once you choose a program, if you connect it well enough, I see no reason why they won't accept you, even though you might not have that degree title. I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Yeah, just adding on, the way I see it, if you particularly want to move from English to any specific field, there is still going to be a reason why you want to do that, make that shift, and that possibly derives out of something that has affected you or shaped you in your past, whether it be one course or one paper that you read on the particular field, or any other small experience, and all of those counts. And I had also tried applying to a couple of technical courses that I wasn't eligible for. And there, what I understood within the Oxford University application system is that they also consider a lot of other experiences in terms of online courses that you've taken up, or any other experience that you have that might not kind of show in your transcript or anything, is as valuable experiences that will help you be part of that cohort and program.
Okay. So there's a few more questions in chat. So this one is, I've learned that we need to show the committee that we have researched our activities and mention it in the first answer. However, in doing so, my answer somehow sound somewhat cliche: leadership skills, entrepreneurial skills, global network, etc. What's your advice to make our answers unique?
I can take this one and later with your. So here again, I think don't say anything abstract is the basic principle that holds. Say something why leadership skills. The business challenge is ideally looking for some event in your life where you had an entrepreneurial mindset. Maybe anything where you had to get an idea executed. So always tie it into a personal experience. If you're saying generic things, yeah, that will not be the ideal thing to do. Show all of these with a personal experience.
Yeah, I think that's a spot on answer. If you tie it to personal experiences, that's exactly what's gonna make it unique. And just think about their perspectives. They're having like hundreds of applicants, and I'm sure a lot of the applications do say generic or abstract things. So you should be the one to stand out by connecting it with your personal experiences to make it unique and by leaving an impression to the reader.
Okay, so I know we're close to the end. And
Just one thing also I wanted to add on the first question, like uh, in this, isn't the last questions a question about how do you highlight the uniqueness in the first question? Most applicants make the mistake of course, using these cliche words, network, alumni, and so on, but they forget that it is about why do you want to participate. So it's not only about highlighting how the WHT leadership program is different from other scholarships, which is the first part. You should anyway show that this scholarship is different from other scholarships in XYZ manner. But it's also about why do you in specific want to do it. So this is where you try to bring your story. What makes you arrive at the WHT application? Where do you come from? And that is when you show that how you are tailor-made for this, or how you want to seek out this opportunity. So the you part needs to come out very clearly in this answer, and that is what can separate you from a generic to a more refined application.
um, okay, so as I was saying, I know we've completed our 1 hour. So if the speakers are okay staying for a few more minutes till we wrap it up, but of course, if someone has to leave, that's completely fine as well. Um, okay, Anas, do you want to unmute and ask your question? And then Ashutosh and Neha, you can ask your questions, but I request all of you to be please as brief as possible and ask all your questions in one go.
Yeah. Thank you for the session. My question was related to the essays and the challenge of covering the challenge of 200 words per question. So I'm coming from the idea of that when you answer these essay questions, you should include as with the discussion that who you are, where you're coming from, and what are you trying to solve while answering these questions as well. Like you're not bogged down with the contextualization. So I just wanted to get your experience. How did you structure your essay while addressing these things within the challenge of those 200 words per question?
Anyone?
Okay, I can give my example. So again, I would emphasizing again whatever has been said so far, and then probably giving you an example from my essay where when you say, okay, why do you want to attend the moral philosophy seminar, for instance, what I did possibly was draw on one of my work experiences where I did have an ethical dilemma to resolve, where I didn't see a right or wrong, which was black and white. So I would possibly then talk talk about that particular experience and how I'd like to get answers to these kind of ethical dilemmas in my professional field. So that was one of the ways, and that possibly answered the moral philosophy aspect. And then for the business challenge aspect, I think there was I had experience trying to raise funds for an NGO that I was part of. So how I thought the business challenge would help me with let's say the ideas of how to pitch a idea in a very short time and things like that, which were possibly personal experiences, but connected to what they would teach me.
Yeah, thank you for answering this first. Yeah, it's definitely a tough question, staying within the word limit. And when we were writing our application, we had no chat GPT or anything to summarize, which I would also recommend not to use. I usually just use hyphens for like compound words like goal oriented or something to reduce my word count. But what works is that you keep a balance of the information which exhibits your achievements and skills, how well it connects, and also some personal element to it. And I know it's a bit tough within 200 words, but if you wanna leave out something because of the word limit, don't leave out something essential, but leave out something which you know that you could elaborate in the interview, and whatever is mentioned would make them more curious about you. And yeah, like don't leave things unexplained, of course, but make it interesting so that you get invited for an interview call from the scholarship. And apart from that, it is a bit tough to navigate. So I think that's where your writing skills would come in handy, trying to condense all that information within the 200 word limit.
Great. Ashutosh and then Neha.
Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful session. So I would like to ask one question. So last year I completed my BA and thereafter I also completed my masters like LLM. So again I want to go for that scholarship. So how could I, is it is I am eligible, or should I have to write like say mention in my questions that I have completed my and I have to add some experiences which I gained from my master's, so that in the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no harm in mentioning that you have done your masters. In any case, your CV would be with them because you'd attach it and you show that. Basically, there's no bar of like it doesn't bar you from applying. It doesn't prohibit you from applying. And two, like you may want to show that what is it that you learned in your LLM, and then why do you want to do a second LLM, and what is it that the the second degree will add to your academic experience and so on, and then you can link it there. So it depends on how you phrase your story and your experiences.
Yeah, I think there's also a small follow-up question of that apart from eligibility, will an existing master's degree put me at a disadvantage compared to other applications? I think it depends on the way you portray it. If you credibly show that because of that initial master's degree, you were able to get one step closer to your career goals, and then with this Oxford master's degree, you would get another step closer with your career goals. That would be really helpful. And so they should not get the idea that you got a master's degree and then you did nothing with it, or there was no marginal benefit with it. Because if you couldn't leverage that master's degree, then what makes them think that you could leverage the Oxford master's degree as well? So make sure to not give that impression. And if you phrase it smartly, there's no reason why it should put you at a disadvantage. So I would still encourage you to apply with an existing master's degree. And also, I unfortunately have to go. But if you all have any questions, do message me. I think the other two panelists are staying. Okay. But thank you so much for coming. Bye.
Thank you, Taha. Sorry that we had to keep you for longer.
No worries. Bye.
Bye. Great. Neha, do you want to ask your question now?
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry to keep you both waiting. I'll keep my question quick. I know that we have to tie in our personal experiences with, the values of WHT and stuff. I just want to know if I should first tell a story about my personal experience and then say, hence, I want to do this. Or should I just give a first line which just says, I want to do this because of dash, 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 and then substantiate why with personal experience? Because when I'm mentioning the personal experience first, it's taking up a lot of my word count. And if I don't explain it enough, then it's sounding, I don't know, it's not, I feel like I'm not giving enough context. So anything on that?
I think it might be best to get a review on your essay personally in this situation. It seems very contextual,
Okay.
but from what I understand, my answer to this would be hit the nail on the head. First sentence of your answer should ideally go into the details of it. Don't try with 200 words. You don't have place to build up a story and then come to a conclusion.
Correct.
So always
Hmm.
go into the detail first and then use whatever helps to make the case. That's all, and remove everything else.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think that's about it. I know that Faizan and Teres, both of you have been responding to the questions in chat. So if there's any question that's not been answered, please put it in chat again, or just raise your hand and we can take the question. Otherwise, we will end the session in the next minute. Any pending question? I see that there's one, I
Also, it's
think.
faster if you unmute. And I don't know if Ms. already must have said this, that your question answer sessions are not recorded. So please feel free to unmute yourselves.
So I know the Q&A part is recorded, Faizan.
Okay. No, but will it be put on the recording?
It will, sorry. But
Okay. So sorry, Ms.
but
I
feel free to
forgot
like
protocol.
chat. Sorry, there's one question that is about is there any weightage given to financial need, or is it purely a merit-based scholarship?
Okay, not as such as like they won't require you to put your income certificates or anything like that. Neither is there any such criteria. Um, but what you may want to, not want to, but if you want to, and like if it has shaped your experiences, your struggle, your journey, then you can highlight that you come from this particular financial background where you have faced these XYZ hardships and so on. But it's not as a criteria for your evaluation itself.
Tahira, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Thank you very much. My apologies. I joined this session quite late. I'm a candidate for MPP. And while I was going through the profiles of MPP candidates who were able to get this leadership scholarship, the number was quite limited. So I was just looking at how to create relevance for completing this application in a way that I'm able to secure this leadership funding. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Tahira, I just muted you. I just sorry, before Teres, you respond specifically, I do want to let you know that the session is recorded and we will upload the recording on our YouTube channel. And our speakers have spoken in detail about each of the answers that you have to submit and sort of how you can write about your experiences in those answers. So you might find a lot of the content there in the recording. And then additionally, Teres, of course, please go ahead.
Yes, I think within the WHT cohort, MPP and MBA does have a considerable number of people compared to other courses. So I think MPP does have a lot of people who are on the scholarship. But within the MPP cohort, I think because a lot of people come with work experience, while you're being weighted within the class as to who will get the scholarship, I think your competition is tougher because you have a higher classroom size, and all of that, which possibly will make chances slightly more difficult. But within the WHT community, I think five of the 30 people in my cohort is MPP, which is a really huge percentage actually. And Faizan can clarify maybe if it was the case with his batch as well.
Yeah, lots of people in MPP every year. I think the tougher part is getting admission. So once you get admission, then of course I think it's I wouldn't say easier, but I would say that then a lot of people who get into the MPP, and in fact, my sense is that all the people who usually come from developing countries in the MPP usually get forwarded to the WHT, like shortlist, or I mean not shortlist, but as in for consideration for that. So yeah, you may want to focus as well in your admission application as much as you also pay attention to the scholarship program, and then of course um, yeah. Seher is asking how many candidates for LLM were there. So, okay, one thing is the courses are not fixed. Okay, every year, and this is also something when Teres list came out, we were there in Australia, and like when we saw the list, we realized that a lot of new courses, new countries, new configurations. So if they feel that, oh, every 2, 3 years we've had too many MBP, let's reduce it, let's add this people from this course getting the scholarship. But when I say new course, I don't mean new eligibility course or a newly eligible course. What I mean is that, oh, if some course is not well represented in previous years, they try to represent it this year. So in the year previous to us, there was no scholar from South Asian studies. So in my year, they said, okay, let's get one person from South Asian studies. Similarly, they can also like uh, play around with who gets the scholarship. So sometimes in the years previous to me, in the LLM programs, it was very rare that people from freshers or like newly graduates would get it in the BCL program. But in my year, I got selected when I was a fresh graduate. So a lot of these things also keep changing every year. Don't worry about that whether you have a good chance or not. Your focus should just be on making the application as much as you can, and then of course it's like not in your control and leave it to them. And based on the pool of applicants that change every year, they want to ensure a diverse cohort.
Great. I think that's about it. I don't see any other questions in chat. Yeah, so I think we can end the session now. Faizan, Teres, do you have any questions in your DM that you'd want to address here?
No.
Okay, great. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, we won't be able to share sample essays or essays that any of our mentors wrote for the application. It's also not very helpful because it then becomes the metric from which you write your own essay. So it's always good to use your own voice and your own creativity in writing your essays. I think the prompts that the speaker spoke about and the sort of the ways in which you can see the questions, the prompts that they suggested, I think are very helpful. So if you use that and write an essay, it would be quite helpful. Yeah, I think that
One last thing, it was conveyed through the WHT team that they have recently updated their FAQ section, and it's on the website. So if there are any further questions, you could look that up as well.
amazing. All right, with that, I'll end the session now. Thank you so much, Teres and Faizan and Taha as well for taking time out during the session and for staying for much longer to do the Q&A. Thank you everyone who joined us today. I hope you found this session helpful. Recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and if you don't know where to find our YouTube channel, I'm just sending a link in chat. Yeah, all the very best with your applications, everyone. Take care. And again, thank you, Teres, Faizan. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye.